Welcome back to the light novel summary series. That time I got reincarnated as a slime on AniMonolith. Picking up from the previous developments in Volume 12. Chapter 1. After the four demon lords discussed the primordials, the subject then turns to the Eastern Empire preparing to invade. Hinata reported that the Empire had begun conducting military exercises, signaling a possible war on the continent. Rimuru had previously thought that war would be a losing move for the Empire, as the cost of invasion would likely outweigh any potential benefits. Typically, wars of aggression are motivated by profit, but in this case, the Empire still seemed eager to advance, likely because they were confident in their chances of victory. Raphael suggested that the safest invasion route would be through the Dwarven Kingdom, which prompted Rimuru to recall a previously identified path that met those criteria. Hinata confirmed this route was viable, and although the Dwarven Kingdom was neutral, Rimuru began to worry whether Gazelle would allow the Empire safe passage or be attacked first. Doubting an ally was uncomfortable, but the situation demanded that Rimuru discuss the matter directly with Gazelle. With Tempest now holding military command of the Council, any war would place the burden squarely on Rimuru's shoulders, a fact that made him uneasy. As he glanced around the room, he noticed Guy distancing himself from the coming conflict, acting indifferent. Rimuru was still curious about the game Guy had mentioned earlier, suspecting it wasn't as simple as it sounded. Luminous, on the other hand, was tied up dealing with the aftermath of Granbel's fall and Ruberios' internal damage, yet still chose to lend Hinata to support Tempest, an undeniable show of goodwill. What troubled Rimuru most, however, was the potential alliance with Yuki. While Yuki's intelligence could be useful in a war, his past actions made him hard to trust. He was involved in the incidents with Farmus, Kleiman, and Orklord. Every major battlefield seemed to have his fingerprints on it. Rimuru doubted his subordinates would accept such an alliance, and even Guy admitted he wasn't sure Yuki would hold up his end of their agreement. Following Diablo's suggestion, Rimuru ordered Sue to begin investigating Yuki's recent activities. If cooperation proved impossible, they would treat him as an enemy. With the Empire issue unresolved, the meeting could have ended there, but Guy had one more reason for coming to Tempest: the matter of Chloe's future. He had known about Granbel's plan to release a dangerous sealed entity in Ruberios, something Luminous had worked hard to keep hidden, and had been watching events closely to ensure nothing spiraled out of control. However, Diablo had told him to leave the rest to Rimuru. Remembering the chaos in Ruberios, Rimuru realized that Diablo must have made this deal during his brief disappearance from the battlefield. Despite his reservations, Rimuru admitted that things would have been much worse if Guy had gotten involved. To keep things under control, Rimuru began recounting the events of the battle against Granbel, while carefully omitting any mention of Chloe's time-traveling abilities or the time loop. Instead, he pinned the blame on Kronoa, claiming she had gone berserk and was defeated. Guy, however, wasn't easily fooled. Noticing Chloe's presence, he immediately recognized her as a hero and pressed Rimuru for the truth. Knowing he couldn't deceive Guy directly, Rimuru offered a half-truth. Chloe awakened her latent powers during the battle, but even that didn't convince Guy, who called out the lie on the spot. Just as the situation was about to spiral, Leon stepped in, claiming Chloe was the person he had been trying to summon all along. Luminous joined in, stating that Chloe was the perfect vessel to seal Kronoa. Guy listened, clearly skeptical but still playing along. Rimuru added that Chloe had a special ability that allowed her to steal and seal away an opponent's power. Despite the questionable storytelling, the three worked in sync to protect Chloe. Guy remained suspicious but played along, for the moment. However, in the blink of an eye, Guy summoned a sword and swung it at Chloe. Even with Rimuru's enhanced perception stretched to 1,000,000 times normal speed, he couldn't react in time. Leon and Luminous were frozen in shock, but then before anyone could register what had happened, the sound of clashing blades rang out. Chloe had suddenly grown up, drawn a sword, and blocked the attack. "Nice to meet you, Demon Lord Guy-san. Even though it's my first time seeing you in person, I always knew you were strong." "Ahahaha, you're not bad as well. Chloe, was it? People capable of using that power properly are, including me, quite scarce in number." Despite Rimuru's attempts to track their fight, he realized that Chloe hadn't moved with sheer speed. There were no shifts in air pressure or physical traces of high-speed movement. Raphael couldn't analyze the phenomenon either, failing to observe what had just occurred. At this moment, Rimuru thought that if he were the victim, he definitely wouldn't be able to deal with such power. Glancing around the room, everyone was bewildered because they couldn't see and understand what had happened, except for one person, Diablo. He was observing Guy and Chloe with a surprised expression, as if he had understood something. Rimuru told himself that he would ask more about it later. Chloe now began to transfer control of her body to Kronoa and launched an attack towards Guy. Again, their movements were beyond Rimuru's comprehension. Acting on instinct, he leaped in to break up the fight. Hey, don't do anything rash. You could have been cut down by mistake. Chrono explained that Guy hadn't been serious and was merely testing her. As thanks for Rimuru's concern, she gave him a surprise hug and a kiss on the cheek, leaving him frozen in shock. Speaking of Chloe, right as she kissed me, she became small again. She then yelled while turning red and shaking with anger. Enough! How dare you hug Rimuru-san on your own, and even kiss? Witnessing that scene, Leon scooped up Chloe and warned Rimuru to keep his distance. After setting her down, he berated Guy for playing dangerous games with that level of power. Chloe reassured them that Guy hadn't meant any harm, and Cronoa had only fought back out of curiosity. In a previous timeline, she had been killed by Guy and now wanted to see how her new powers, specifically the ultimate skill Spacetime King Yog-Sothoth, measured up. Raphael confirmed that Chloe's integration of time travel with her ultimate skill allowed her to manipulate time in ways that made observation or prediction impossible. In other words, she could stop time entirely. That power was beyond cheating. No matter how strong someone was, if they couldn't enter that frozen world, they wouldn't be able to win. Rimuru realized with horror that Chloe might now be powerful enough to defeat even Guy. Despite her appearance, she had far surpassed him in strength. That thought alone made Rimuru break out in a cold sweat. In the end, both Leon and Luminous made it clear. If Guy ever harmed Chloe, he would be their enemy. Guy surprisingly backed down, promising not to touch her so long as she didn't get in his way. With that, Chloe's safety was assured. For now. But Rimuru was amused to think that Chloe was likely the strongest person in the room, and Rimuru wondered who would protect who in battle. Even though Rimuru had no intention of revealing Chloe's true abilities, since doing so wouldn't change anything, everything else was finally in order. Guy had resolved his concerns and the long meeting officially came to an end. As night fell, no one seemed in a rush to leave without dinner, so an impromptu banquet was held. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was enough to satisfy even the demon lords. After the meal, everyone began preparing to return to their territories, but not before one final dispute. Who would take care of Chloe? In the end, they respected Chloe's decision to remain in Tempest. Leon, though clearly unhappy, had no choice but to accept it. As a parting gesture, Chloe hugged him and thanked him for always worrying about her, reassuring him that she was no longer a child. To prove it, she transformed into her adult form and smiled. "See, I've grown up," she said brightly. Leon, smiling gently, responded, "You've become a wonderful woman, but I'll always be here for you. You can rely on me whenever you need to." Rimuru watched them and couldn't help but admire the genuine care Leon showed. But the atmosphere quickly shifted when Leon turned toward him with a darkened expression. "Chloe said she's all grown up now. Don't tell me you..." Rimuru froze, stunned at the implication. Was Leon really that obsessed with Chloe that he jumped to such wild conclusions? No, I'm asexual. That's not even possible," Rimuru replied in a panic. His denial seemed to calm Leon, though it brought up a lingering pain in Rimuru's heart. The quiet wish that his former parts might one day return. With his usual stoic flair, Leon finally departed, not forgetting to leave Rimuru with one last reminder. Don't let anything happen to Chloe. Shortly after, Luminous also came to say goodbye. "Chloe, you're an important friend to me. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask. Take care of yourself." Her tone was calm but sincere, and just like that, she too took her leave. Just as Rimuru thought the day was finally over, he realized one person still hadn't left. Guy. And for some reason, Diablo was hovering next to him like a shadow, eyeing him with interest. "Now then, shall we continue where we left off?" Diablo asked. No, I've heard enough," Guy quickly replied, already looking uneasy. "Kufu-fufu, don't be shy, Guy." Diablo pressed on, completely ignoring the social cues. "Tisk! Fine. Then, let's change topics. How about the missions of Testarossa and the others? And maybe some insights into Rimuru-sama's greatness?" Rimuru froze. Diablo clearly had something he wanted to say, badly. No, everyone's busy right now. Maybe next time," Rimuru interrupted, trying to prevent any more chaos. Fortunately, Guy took the hint and immediately excused himself, practically fleeing the scene. For the first time, Rimuru saw Guy Crimson visibly flustered. It left an unexpectedly good impression. That day, filled with tension, surprises, and emotion, finally came to a close. Guy had accepted Chloe's status as a hero, and she had officially been acknowledged by the Demon Lords. Still, Rimuru reminded himself not to let his guard down. The threat of Yuki and the Eastern Empire still loomed ahead. Peace would be ideal, but that wasn't something they could count on. For now, Rimuru resolved to prepare for whatever storms lay ahead. And that wraps up today's video. In the next one, we'll dive into Chapter 2 of Volume 12. Thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.